Population increase, urbanization, and economic development are primary reasons for the high generation of solid waste in municipalities. Hence, waste generation comes out of the quest to meet our daily human needs. These include food, shelter, clothing, seeking for better standards of living, and many others. How do we manage our quest for improvement in life and the resulting huge volumes of waste generated? Trash Talk will seek to diagnose primary causes of the current waste management scenarios and propose solutions that will fit the Ghanaian context. After the break, we'll meet the panel. Welcome back to Trash Talk. Today we are talking about solid waste. That's the storage and the collection. How do we get the waste collected from our homes, our organizations, and factories and all other spaces where we generate waste? Today is an all-female panel, and I'm excited about it. We have Madame Appia Osei-Duah from Zoomlion, and also we have with us Madame Ahiayibor of City Waste Recycling. You're welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
You're welcome to Trash Talk. Today, we are going to have a candid discussion of what we do, what we are unable to do, and what should be done. Simple like that. I'll start off with Madame Emma from Zoomlion. What does Zoomlion do?
Thank you, Doc. Zoomlion came into existence since mid-part of 2006. And what we saddled ourselves to do is to help keep the environment clean. What do I mean by this? We have contracts with the government to clean the principal streets of Ghana. And this contract sits with the YEA. And we also have contracts with the municipal assemblies to provide them with central containers which will be placed at specific places. And we also have contracts with the municipal assemblies again, where they have assigned specific areas to us, and we collect from those concessionary areas, the door-to-door waste. And apart from that, we have other private engagements that we do, like scientific cleaning of interior spaces, beautification of people's spaces, and many other little things, including vector control.
Oh, wonderful. I think we'll get into the specifics of how you try to intervene in terms of waste collection. But I'll come to Madam Vivian, City Waste Recycling. Tell us a bit about what City Waste Recycling does.
We do the haulage of organic waste as well.
Okay.
And we are into the plastic recycling and also pre-purposing, that is manufacturing. So we recycle HDPE, LDPE, PP, and PET. And we also turn our sawdust that we have in the system into sawdust briquettes for heating places and also for cooking.
Interesting. The sawdust briquettes so there's a market for that?
Yeah, there is.
Can you explain a bit what that product really is?
Okay, so the briquette normally, we have the briquette charcoal, which a sister company is doing here in Ghana. And then for us, our briquette is normally exported to Europe to heat homes. Industries also use it for their steaming purposes. So the sawdust is not actually waste. It's a big resource that business people can venture into.
Yes. Now, I would want you to tell us what, do you collect only in Accra, both of you? Is Zoomlion only in Accra? Let's start off with you. Is Zoomlion only in Accra? I know you seem to be a household name. Everything waste is associated with Zoomlion. Now, do you operate only in Accra?
No, Abena, we are nationwide. We have a nationwide presence because of our contracts with the municipal assemblies.
Okay.
So you get to see Zoomlion in every district of Ghana.
Okay. And what exactly do you collect? Do you collect only solid or you collect liquid waste as well?
Yes, because assignments come in various contracts. We have a section that collects the solid waste and a section that does the liquid waste. So depending on what is needed, we do. And with our private wings, they do almost everything waste, from solid to liquid, through everything to recycling.
Okay. City waste, same question. I mean, I want to understand where exactly do you operate?
Okay, so currently we are concentrating more on industries.
Industries
that seek to work with ISO standards.
Okay.
So we are working in terms of zero tracking of waste or zero waste system. We are looking at the circular economy. So every company that we work with, or any community that we work with, it's a must that you segregate the waste so that we'll be able to add value to the fractions that we generate.
But is that not quite limiting? Because to get an ISO certification is no small feat.
Yes.
It does take a long process and it's quite tedious, it's detailed. So that means that in the waste collection space, you specialized.
We do.
All right. And you mentioned segregation earlier. Does that mean that it's sort of instructional for every client of yours to segregate their waste?
It's a must you segregate.
Okay.
Because when you segregate, that is when we get the values of the material we want, that we are able to mitigate on our carbon footprints. Because other than that, a lot of contamination also took place during the process. And we want to protect the staff that we work with as well. So for us, the value addition is key, keeping raw materials long in circulation. So for example, if this bottle is collected as source, the other companies that can turn it to bottle so that we don't go back importing raw materials again to do this. And as City Waste also, we are into e-waste recycling as well. And we are present here in Accra. In the next few months, we'll be setting up collection outlets in all the 16 regions of Ghana.
Wow.
With pre-processing units, because plastic has a lot of volume. So we'll be able to reduce the volume before it comes to the city, and also be able to create jobs at the district levels for our young people.
What kind of model are you going to infuse in this?
So
in
this
the
model,
job creation,
absolutely. This model comes with some social benefits for the collectors. Everybody that brings any type of waste, it can be plastic, it can be paper, cotton, things, even the glass bottles to any of these collection outlets. If you bring a ton of it, or let's say 1,000 kilo, you are insured on a health insurance scheme.
Okay.
And you are paid instantly for whatever you bring to this outlet. So this will encourage community members not to litter, but rather bring the waste and gain value for their waste generated. And this will help us also to put it back into production to help materials long in circulation.
Do you also work with the model of working with MMDAs?
Yes, yes.
So you have a consignment, you have a zone that you are assigned to.
Yes, so you need to have a zone that you work with, and that's why I'm part of ESPA, the environmental service providers, because the assembly allocates spaces for each contractor to work in, and that is what we do.
Yeah, we would have a session with ESPA sometime soon in the future. What happens, Madam Emma?
Yeah.
What happens when you are not able to collect all the waste in the zone that you've been assigned?
As a contractor, you are to be able to cover your entire zone. But you realize that the way our system is, the individual also has some sort of control. It is not everybody in the zone that gets to register with the contractor.
Okay.
Not because...
Why is that?
Yeah, not because we wouldn't register them, but they want to get away with it. And that is where we call for the bylaws to be strengthened to bite, so that nobody in a particular zone will be able to escape working with a particular contractor. Because what happens if you have house number 1, 3, 6 working with a contractor, and 2, 5 are not working with a contractor? Where do they keep their waste? How do they manage their own premises waste? And that becomes a part of the pollution of the community, because they get to burn, they get to bury, all modes of getting to dispose of their waste is employed, and that doesn't help anybody. So by this, we call for the district assemblies to make sure that the bylaws are in place and they have educated the people well enough so that it makes the waste management contractor's job a bit easier and also enhanced. And then the communities are clean and the municipality chalks all the accolades for that.
Okay, I want to find out how often, and this is to both of you, maybe you would take a bite at it first. How often do you speak to each other as collectors, waste collectors? How often do you speak to each other? I know there's the ESPA platform, but apart from that, if somebody is collecting, somebody has a franchise space, this is just an example, somebody has a franchise space they've been allocated and for some reason they are unable to collect. Do you speak to each other to say, you can collect for me temporarily or?
Yes, we do. For example, Zoomlion has some fleets that's been made available. You can lease if you have any emergency. And you can also call on any of the members depending on
At a fee, I suppose?
Yes, because the person is leasing his or her truck and maybe has a schedule, but because that schedule can be done maybe in the evening, he or she can charge you, and then you can use it to solve that problem. So we do that. We try our best to give services to Ghanaians.
Wow. Same Zoomlion?
Yeah, Zoomlion has the Alliance Waste arrangement, and this goes for waste companies that have the franchise areas but are not fully equipped to be able to do all that space. So we come into an agreement and we reward each other. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement through the percentages. So that is done. Also, when we are unable to collect, I realized that generates another line for the informal waste collectors.
Okay.
I wouldn't even say when we are unable to collect, because the bylaws are not biting and people get away with the choice that, Zoomlion is here, but I don't think I want to work with Zoomlion. Then they choose to call these Aboboya people and they come around and they are equally organized.
And
also.
the Aboboya, to explain to those who are watching and do not understand, Aboboya is the tricycle waste collectors.
Yes, they are. Most of them are into an organized group, also under ESPA, and I would say that we work together to an extent. However, there are some of them who are not under any authorization, and they just move about doing what they want to do. And sometimes I believe most of those people who are not under any authority get to dump indiscriminately also.
I want to shift slightly to the issue of costing. How often do you increase what is the current rate and how often have you increased your rates?
So as it stands now, our fees have not been increased for some time now.
Some time being like
over
2 years?
Over 4 years, 5 years. Our fees have not been increased by the assembly.
Is it an agreed strategy by all waste collectors?
Because as per the laws required, per the decentralization processes that Ghana went through in the 1998, the assemblies have the sole responsibility of waste management.
Okay.
And so the assemblies will engage us, the private companies, to engage us on a particular fee we are supposed to charge to render a service to the community. And these fees are supposed to be renewed every year, which doesn't happen.
Give me a typical scenario of how
a typical
the review
scenario
happened the last time.
Yeah,
who are the stakeholders at that meeting?
So normally we deal with local government and assemblies. All the assemblies, we engage each other, and we don't take decisions on our own. It has to be agreed by the assemblies before a fee can be charged.
What about the households? The households that would be bearing the cost, were they part of the discussion?
Yes, sometimes communities are engaged before these prices come in, and that is done at the assembly level. Okay. So you don't just come and just introduce prices. Community leaders are engaged, etc., to do that. But a typical example here is as of 2022, let's say this month, we are supposed to be charging 331 Ghana cedis per the 240-liter bin.
Okay.
But we are charging in the first class areas 100 and 120 Ghana cedis.
What your classification of first class is? By what means?
So in the high-income areas, we turn them as the first-class areas because they are able to afford a bit more, and even most of them also generate a lot of waste, so they have different bills. So
as against the slum communities?
It happens sometimes.
All right.
So, and then for the second class, we are doing between 50 and 40 cedis, whilst we are supposed to be charging about 175 per the 240-liter bin.
These are the updated price. This is the updated price list.
This is what we are charging now, but for the updated one, we would have been charging 177. So you can see that actually we are undercharging our services, which is quite difficult.
Does that not affect the service you deliver?
It would definitely affect our services because, as we are all aware, a lot of things have gone up, and you need to maintain your trucks, you need to maintain your staff. Even the bins in the area, some areas you need to give the bins. And in most cases also, the assembly somehow subsidizes for the low-income areas for us to pick the skips for them in the community. So at the moment, it's not easy for us, but we all need the communities to come together. And that is why some of us are proposing that if we segregate the waste at source, and we have like a barter system or have community collection centers, people can walk in voluntarily and send in their bottles there, get a fee for it, send your paper, get a fee for it, send your tomato can, get a fee for it, and then they are generating less organic because the waste bin, they would generate less and will pay less when we also go to landfill site. But then it's a win-win situation
I'll
for
come
everybody.
to the segregation matter again. It seems to be a recurrent subject on all the programs we've had so far. Madam Emma, how often have you increased prices? You don't need to be specific, but how often, and what goes into price increments?
Same thing that Madam has just said. And the waste management companies are not allowed to set their own prices. It is the assemblies that get to look at what they think is your operational cost.
But I know she's explained that process. I would want to understand. So if the assembly, for instance, comes to say, this is how much we've agreed amongst ourselves for you to be charging households, and you realize that your cost of operations cannot be covered, what do you do as a waste collection company?
Yes, we will go into an engagement. But until the time that there is a sort of agreement in that engagement, you will have to still continue to work. And
even if you are running at a loss?
Yes, you continue to work. This is an essential service. And sometimes you wish for a particular client or for a particular area you wouldn't pick. But you don't have that flexibility to do that. And unfortunately, for those of us who are caught up in this business, your heart has been tied to it so much so that you are uncomfortable yourself as a brand to stay away from your franchise area because people are not paying. You understand? So that is what happens until the papers that we will present to the assemblies are looked at and agreed. Whatever the rates are that we have arrived at, we go ahead and work with that. Sometimes they even give you the rate, you put the rate out there, and people are not responding.
I want to shift it again to the almighty question of customer service delivery. Zoomlion, we've had some complaints about your services in some quarters, sometimes in the media, sometimes people bash you in the media and all of that. But I suppose because people don't understand what goes into how and why you are unable to, say, collect on particular days that you say you would collect. What are some of the things that cause some of these delays, if I would call them that,
Yes,
to your franchise areas?
I like it when you call them delays. Because, for instance, when the operational team assigns the vehicles and they move off, at that point, we are expecting that the vehicles will arrive at their destination. And these are vehicles, they are machines, and anything at all is possible to happen. So when it so happens that, unfortunately, it breaks down along the way, then a delay is going to occur. And that delay will definitely hit the customer in a way before we are able to intervene. When the vehicles get to break down before routing is done, then we are able to communicate immediately to the client that tomorrow was the agreed date, but unfortunately we wouldn't be able to come. So the customer is able to preserve his waste, not to put it outside there for scavengers, including dogs and all, to mess it up. So it is a huge challenge that hits us many a time. But each time it happens, we try our possible best to send text messages, however the delay has been, to send text messages via bulk, SMSing, WhatsApp, personal relationship, all manner of ways and means to communicate to our customers our inability to come. But there is one specific style that often happens, and it's on the quiet, where people forget that it is a collection day and they lock the waste up.
It happens to all of us, we forget.
Many a time, some of them come out with the waste shortly after the vehicle has passed and then get to complain, take pictures that the waste has not been picked. It has happened one too many times. Sometimes the boss is traveled and expects that, by the time I come, the waste will be cleared. And whoever is in charge, for fear of being bashed, will then blame the contractor. So some of these things happen, and we are very much aware. But when it happens and it is brought to the limelight, then we quickly have to go in and apologize again.
That's the same thing happen with you, because you mentioned earlier about when you have a shortage in your fleet and you call on the likes of Zoomlion to support. What exactly do you do when your clients' waste do not remain uncollected?
So as our services are scheduled such that on a particular day you are picking plastic, on a particular day you are picking the organics. And so for organics, you need to pick up or evacuate it from that yard by 7 a.m. in the morning before administration starts. So if your driver calls you or you look at your schedule and you realize that you are a bit behind time, you quickly, like Madam said, would inform the client that this is what will happen. And then they can quickly look at their waste area and see what adjustment that can be done. For example, bins can be relocated to put in a place whereby it wouldn't disturb the view of people who are walking into a company, for example. So all these things, you need to engage your client, and you need to have a good relationship with your client, because you can be a service provider. Even though you are providing a service, you need the commitment of the people you are also serving with. And that is why we need a community to support us in our waste delivery services.
I know we've had a lengthy discussion. Some hard questions have been asked. We're going for a quick break. When we return, we'll return to these ladies with amazing submissions on their various waste collection strategies. Welcome back to Trash Talk. Today we are talking to Zoomlion and City Waste Recycling. And it's been very interesting getting to know their businesses, how they run the businesses, how it happens that our homes, our organizations do not have waste all over. So they've talked to us about the businesses. Now I want to move to Zoomlion. Madam Emma, what are some of the things that some of your customers do to disrupt your work?
Thank you. I mentioned that sometimes they get to lock up their waste bins and we don't have access to them. So when it happens like that, definitely most of them will want to come back at you, blaming you for non-pickup. That is one. And when they come, a difficult client or an angry client comes raging. Sometimes they have attempted bringing their waste to the office. Some have even brought the waste.
My goodness.
Yes, in their vehicles. And I'm like, if you can spend money on fuel to drive yourself to the compound just because you are angry,
But it's to make a point. Customers have a right, you know.
I understand. They have a right. It is true, but they are not always right.
Yes.
Customers have a right, but they are not always right. So when it happens like that, what we do is to calm them down, empathize with them, and make them feel like you really, really understand the situation and propose measures to solve it. Like we have tricycles available. We used to do other things. So quickly you get a tricycle within that area to pick the waste from the immediate site where the problem is to an appropriate place until the vehicle, if it's a vehicle breakdown issue, until the vehicle is ready to pick it up. And we follow up with messages to comfort our clients. And so, sometimes too, at the end of the year, we select some clients and bring them into our yard to end the year with us, showing appreciation to them for how they have supported our business.
Wonderful. End of year party.
We have end of year Thanksgiving service. And it's a very elaborate event. So we bring you there. There are all the stakeholders are there, the chiefs, the mayors, the assembly members, and you are there and you'll be mentioned and you feel a part
appreciated.
Of us. Because we feel that the work, the waste management work is a community-based work.
Yes.
So the entire stakeholders in the community should have a say in what we do. So when they come with that, like somebody parks in front of our office or walks into my office raging, it's empathy.
Yes.
Like I said earlier, and we understand them.
Thank you. What about you? How do you deal with upset customers?
Yes, really ours has to do with standard. We are talking about sustainability in terms of waste management. So we have introduced the 7 R's, that is refuse, reuse, recycle, repurpose, etc. And this ours has to do with attitudinal change or behavioral change. So
on whose part?
Some clients are used to the old method of just putting everything together. And you are coming to the company for a service and you are saying, I want you to buy, for example, 5 bins. You put this one here, that one there, and he's asking you, are you not just coming to take the waste and try? My friend, give me the offer and let me walk away. But then you are trying to help solve a problem and even let the company pay less for the waste that they generate. So sometimes it becomes really hard because they don't want to adapt to the new processes that you are
change is difficult.
It is very difficult. But at the end of the day, when they realize that they are rather going to benefit, then they give in to that. For example, we also have a battery take-back system, which we are doing with Bosch Ghana. And the program
What is that?
So
explain in layman's language.
What is that? What is done in the developed world? When you change your old car battery, whether with a dealership or something, you turn in the battery and you get a fee for the when you're buying. So
kind of incentivizing your customers.
Yes, so that people will turn in their batteries for proper recycling.
All right.
And as part of the project, you are not supposed to get rid of the acid before you bring the batteries. But clients who bring maybe a battery somewhere, everything is chopped, and they are saying you should take it. No, I'm saying that I want to know where you put the acid before you are bringing me the battery. They're like, okay, I'm bringing you battery. Why are you not? I'm saying this is the system. Why did you dispose of your acid that would pollute the environment or would actually poison the people in your community? If you're able to tell me that, then I'll be able to buy your batteries from you. So these are some of the challenges we have doing our services, but it all boils down to joining and agreeing and having a win-win situation, and then we flow together.
Ladies, it's getting interesting. One other thing that I would want, first of all, I think I need to ask you, where do you get your bins from? Where do you get them from?
So the bins, normally, we engage Zoomlion.
So UPPR?
Yes, EPPR. And EPPR, I must say, also is doing very well because they take some of my recycling materials for the processes. So they try as much as possible to have local inclusion in terms of raw materials, which is a plus, I might say, for the company. So we leverage on that and we make sure our people have the bins that they need.
Before I allow you ladies to give your closing remarks, Madam Emma, I would want you to tell us a bit about what we hear is the 1 million bin project. What is it all about?
Thank you. We have undertaken a research and we have come to understand that it is more expensive to manage the waste when it is outside of the bin. For instance, if you put waste on the ground and you are ready to collect it from that place for final disposal. Look at the steps you have to go through. And if you have to pay a cedi for each step, that will amount to how much you would pay for getting rid of that waste. But if you had placed that same waste in the bin directly, that would have saved you all that cost. So we are saying that if we are able to put 1 million bins in the system, in this
1 million bins.
1 million
Okay.
bins in this beautiful country, 1 million bins going into 1 million households, then we are sure that as each individual generates 0.7 plus
0.4. 0.74 kg, yeah.
waste each day, that volume is placed in a bin. The next day comes, until the 7 days, and then the bin is taken away. There is a very little chance for waste to escape onto the street and then move into the gutter, get it choked, and then generate flooding when it rains. So we are pushing that every household gets a bin. And
How
that
are you
is
pushing
the
that? Could you tell us a bit about how you're pushing
1
that?
million bin project.
Yes.
Now, we have subsidiaries in all the districts.
Okay.
And they have targets on bins that the number of bins that they have to get into the system. So they also engage with their stakeholders within the districts and get to talk to them. And we at the head office also support them with public education
Okay.
from time to time,
Okay.
trying to get people to appreciate the need to manage their own premises waste properly. And I'll tell you, from where we started from over a decade ago till date, I would say that we've made very huge strides in our waste management process. Because today, it's a very little percentage of people who do not appreciate the use of the bin.
Yeah.
That is one matter. And the other is whether, having appreciated it, they own a bin themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That is another one. But I mean, at least the mere fact that we know that it has become sort of a status symbol to own a bin and it's nice, it's a huge step.
We had an interview a few weeks back where one of the panelists talked about how when they place bins for collection at certain vantage points, people steal them. Do you have that problem?
Yes, that problem.
You also
is
do, right, Vivian?
it's actually a Ghanaian
What
problem.
do they steal them for?
What I have researched into that I know is that earlier in the days, people would want to misuse the bin.
Okay.
Using a waste bin to store water.
Okay.
Using a waste bin to ferment your corn. Using a waste bin to keep your
Clothes.
clothes and how do you call it? Cooking utensils.
Yes.
I mean, it is not right. But for these bins that we are using for the 1 million bin, because of all these experiences, they are tagged with the RFID chip.
You've
So-
added some technology to the bin distribution.
Yes. So
Wow.
today, our bins that are in the system are tagged, and we track them with the solid waste management software.
Yeah.
And we get to know where every bin is. Except that if the bin is not in use and you have used it for something, some of them try to locate where the chip is and then yank it off so they can use the bins for other things. So we are constantly on air. We are doing weekly public educations on various media, in media houses, and trying to put tidbits online, all the various new media platforms to educate as many as can access those information.
Yes.
And help to shape people's minds and help to rid off waste from our streets.
Madam Vivian, what do you do with people who you've placed bins at let's say their organizations and the bins get stolen? Do you replace them? And if you replace them at whose cost?
So what we've done in the beginning, it was difficult because you were supposed to provide the bin, so they would not really take care of it like the way you would do. So with our experience, we started charging them for the bins, and we realized that they kept them longer than expected because somebody
so,
was
so
assigned.
it's not, is it a rental arrangement or it's a purchase?
It's a purchase from source. So it's your
Okay.
property. And so
Okay.
they take care of it more than they would take care of my own that I'll put in their premises. And that's what's able to solve the problem.
That solved the problem. Okay. Now, after you've collected the waste from our facilities, our homes, our offices, and whatnot, where do you take the waste?
We take the waste to recycling facilities. We actually, first of all, depending in the area where it's collected, for the community to have accessibility to waste management service, we send the waste to transfer stations, like we have one at Achimota, to serve the community better, or we send it to recycling facilities like Aricap, like Jakora, where they do the composting, like Aricop as well, to do the sorting, etc. And then the rest is sent to landfill for treatment. But what is good about these processes that we have is the raw material generation that we are able to have from this item, because we are doing the right things, we are able to add value to some of this item. I think when we get there, we'll talk about it.
Okay. How do we ensure that everyone, we've already ascertained, the World Bank's report has told us that we all generate waste. How do we ensure that everyone who generates waste gets them collected appropriately?
Okay, so for me, I think, first of all, public awareness is very key because a lot of our people do not understand why they should pay for the waste in the first place when the system has been built on the polluter pay principle.
Yeah.
So they do not understand why they should even pay for their waste in the first place. And also the effects of dumping the waste illegally or not in an environmentally friendly manner. It brings us to a lot of problems in terms of health, the environment, and also we lose a lot in terms of our economy. For example, dumping this waste into our waterways, it blocks our gutter, we have floods, we are prone to typhoid, malaria, cholera, etc.
Let me add on to what you're saying for effect. Research indicates that about 420 million Ghana cedis, that's an estimated, this is about in 2015 or so, about $290 million is spent on the cost, just the cost of waste each year. So it's going to cost us a whole lot.
Yes. And so we have all these diseases. And also, this affects our water bodies. We are polluting our water bodies. This affects also marine life. And then we are also not able to even generate the resources that we generate if we had actually put this waste in segregation. For example, your normal paper can be turned into cotton again. The plastics can be turned into fuels, diesel, yes. Biogas from our organics. Composting is done by Zoomlion, Aricap, Jakora, etc. to boost our agro industry. So much can be done with the waste. Your tomato can be pressed properly and sent to the steelworks, and they will use it back again in terms of circular economy for our iron rods, etc. What is key here is that we need to do a lot of public education so that people understand that no matter what we do, even the 0.47 we are talking about, people generate more.
Yes.
But on the average, that is what is there. In as much as lifestyle changes come, technology keeps evolving, we are generating more. And so therefore, there's the need to cater for the waste streams that we generate across. And also, it is very important that we look at the raw material generation or raw material generation in terms of production.
Yes.
We should look at materials that we use in producing most of these plastics materials that we use in the country. We should look at those that can be recycled easily and turned into product again to help the economy as well. And then we should also try as much as possible to do the waste source segregation, because this is very key. To have, as part of the 8 categories of waste management or sustainable waste management, is one of the key areas you need to look at.
But who is to put that on the agenda? For instance, we are all sitting here as educated people, and so we can easily talk about waste segregation as if it's just, talking about water. But waste segregation is not known by everybody.
You're right.
So
And
who is to start that discussion? Madam,
See,
let Madam
Abena,
tell us, yeah.
I would want to come in here.
Yes, please.
The way humans are wired, sometimes I think we can push a little with force, a little force. If you leave the human being, he will go to relax and nothing will get done. The few African countries that we have seen improve in waste management, there was a little bit of force there.
Yeah.
You see? So to start with, I would say that we should have the political will concerning waste source segregation.
So, okay.
I think there is the desire to do it, but the will, the energy to back it to happen, because I know that some organizations have started doing source separation here and there. But that alone will not feature hugely for everybody to see or for us to see the effect. Because as we lump everything together, the same truck goes to capture everything into the belly, the motivation is not there.
Yes.
Zoomlion actually in 2006 piloted something like that.
Okay.
We gave 60-liter containers to a community in Accra, and the motivation was not there because you know that it is a bit expensive to move 2-3 vehicles to that same community to cut waste from the same customers. So if the political will is there, the energy is backing the policy for it to happen, then the contractors will be resourced. Then the public education will be deep. If it is usually done once in a month, it's going to move to twice in a month.
Yes.
So that as we push the information there all the time, it gets into the coconut of the people.
So it's a gradual process.
It is a gradual process, but I think that we should put in a lot more fire so that the gradual process will move with a bit of speed.
Yeah. And to add on to what she's just said, a typical example is an African country, that is Mozambique.
Okay.
Mozambique is doing 100% collection in terms of revenue because they have tagged their waste fee to their electricity bill. Other countries are also doing it with their property rates, etc.
I think that Togo is doing something similar
but
too.
I think that in order for us to do this, we need to engage Ghanaians.
Yes.
We need to really engage Ghanaians to accept this. But before doing that, you earlier said that how many people understand waste segregation? Madam, you'll be surprised to know that when you are driving by or walking by, people we refer to as responsible people.
Yes.
You see them throwing things out of their cars.
It's amazing, isn't it?
The trotros, the buses, etc. As if our street or the environment is their bins in their homes. And so, like Madam said, enforcement is very key. If somebody could just stop that car and find that person, if somebody could just catch that person on camera and send it to a place where the person will be dealt with, most of this negativity will stop.
And I'm not,
Yes.
I believe what Madam is saying, because one day I remember I was driving around the Spintex Road and the vehicle was in front of me. And all of a sudden they brought, it was a pickup, they brought a huge pile and then dumped it on the road. So I asked the driver to move a bit faster and we crossed the vehicle. Then I came down and he saw my tag.
Wow.
Madam, I'm sorry.
So did they have to even do it at all?
Why would you want me, a feminine female, to cross you first before you? I mean, why? There are offices all along the Spintex Road. There is no bush around the Spintex Road. So why do you do this? That is why I'm saying that in as much as it appears it's supposed to be a gradual process, I think that the municipalities should be empowered to whip that gradual process up a bit. We put some sort of fear of God in the people, plus public education. It should be a whole gamut of strategy so that we can churn out the solution. Otherwise, we may not be able to do it. But so far as other people have done it, I think we are also able if we put ourselves to it.
Ladies, it's been exciting, but we are going to have to end our program here. But I'm going to, before we go, I would want Madam Vivian to give me your closing remarks, and then afterwards, Emma, you tell us something that from the angle of Zoomlion, just for us to think about.
So for me, I think that the bylaws are adequate, but then it needs to be enhanced for modern trends of waste management in terms of circularity and green production, etc. And as a country, I think we should have a second look at our sort of waste collection. We should make waste source segregation mandatory. And then also, we should make enforcement the biggest part of the whole issue, because the laws are there, enforcement will make it work.
All right.
Thank
you, Madam Emma.
Yes, thank you, Abena. I pick it from enforcement. It is
Yes.
enforcement. We can put out 1 million bins there. And if there is no enforcement, that will make the individual generators feel obliged to get these bins and use them. We can do but very little. So I would entreat government to encourage the district assemblies to push down the bylaws and make enforcement work. And to us as the source generators, on our own, until it becomes a policy for you to segregate your waste. Try and segregate your waste. Try and put the organics into a bin and put the plastics into another, so that at least these two sources alone will be fine to start with, so that in future when the policy comes and it is mandatory for you, it becomes easier for you to run your show.
It looks like we are going to part today on two words, enforcement and enforcement. Just these two, enforcement and enforcement. I was joined today by Madam Emma Osei-Duah from Zoomlion and also Madam Vivian Ahiayibor from City Waste Recycling. Very, very smart brains around the table. I am grateful that you came on the show. We are going to have to end our session here today. We'll be back next time on Trash Talk.